Now the composer at home, recalling his birthplace, Vienna.
It was the cradle of the operettas, like Merry Widow, and in those days, Wallstream, even the Gibbet and Sullivan shows, Mikado, Pirates of Penzance, and Offenbach, Orpheus and the Underworld, and my father produced most of these things. And my grandfather produced the Johann Strauss things, the Night in Venice and Fledermaus, Bat, as it's called here.
Did they manage
my grandfather found Johann Strauss. He was playing violin at Reisenweber's in Schönbrunn, near the castle. And he brought him, he took him to Vienna, made him start writing for the theater. Up to that time, he had written a lot of waltzes and so forth. But my grandfather, Maximilian Steiner, by the way, the same name as mine. I show you the theater right here. It's right hanging right on my wall. It's a piece of board out of my grandfather's bedroom where he died that they made up and framed it and so forth.
So you were born into this musical environment.
I conducted an American operetta called The Belle of New York, which was by Gustav Kirke when I was 12 years old.
You conducted professionally?
With my father's theater. And when Kirke came to New York, he met me and he said, I was still going to school. He says, Max, this is better than I did in New York. He says, why don't you give up and come as a boy wonder? And my mother put her foot down. He says, all musicians and waiters are stinkers.
Your mother said that?
Yeah, my mother had 3 restaurants. She was she was supposed to be the most beautiful woman of Vienna. But she was, and my father married her. She was in the chorus in my grandfather's theater, and Papa fell in love with her. And that's why I'm here, knowing the audiences in Hollywood. And he wanted me to come with him. And then Sousa came to New York, to Vienna. And we were so impressed with him that I went out of my mind. With this big brass band, he had about 65 men with him. These lousy uniforms, these black uniforms, with these horrible cats. But concert I'll never forget. He played a few marches of his. Nothing happened. The audience sat there and applauded very politely. And then he played the Blue Danube. And such a performance you've never heard. I thought the Viennese went out of their minds.
John Philip Sousa playing Viennese music in Vienna?
Oh, boy. And how? And it was so wonderful. Because to this day, I never forget the Blue Danube. And the Viennese know how to play waltz, and so did Sousa. Believe it or not, with all his marches. Well, they went out of his, just absolutely nuts. I think he played it 4 times. That whole long waltz that takes 10 minutes. That was the end of the concert. Because everybody loved him. And he, too, the reason I'm talking about it is, he, too, came to me, and Father, he said, he saw me conduct, it was at the same time. He says, why don't you let me take Max home to America and see what we can do there? And my father says, no, he's going to finish school. A good job it is, too.
Is it true that you wrote an operetta when you were 14?
Yes. No, I was 15.
Was it called Beautiful Greek Girl?
Beautiful Greek Girl, yes. And we had, my father, there's quite a story to this. My father had a stage manager by the name of Carl Tussel, Tuschl. And Tussel left him and leased a theater called the Orpheum. In the Josefstadt. My father then owned the theater in the wing. We had Venice in Vienna, a very big park, something like Disneyland, only not, of course, that big. By the way, he built that giant Ferris wheel that you see
in the Prater in Vienna.
Yeah, that's my father built that. Yeah, and I wrote. Papa was awfully mad at Karl Tussle, because he left him. See, and when I wrote this show, I wrote the music and I wrote the script, but I didn't finish the script myself because I couldn't do that. But a man by the name of Julius Wilhelm finally finished the script. And we took it to my daddy when we finished it, and Papa says it stank. It was no good. He didn't have any part of it. So I said, why don't we go over to Tussle and see what happens? We took it to Tussle. Tussle took it, produced it. I conducted the opening night. The show was dirty. It was a really dirty pornographic sort of a thing. And it ran a year. And that's how I got my first motor car and my first motorcycle.
A 15-year-old boy.
15-year-old boy, and I've got the music to prove it.
Max, how did you get to Hollywood?
On the train.
Well, I mean, what brought all this about?
Well,
why?
I was doing a show. Oh, I did a lot of shows, and I worked for everybody, Gershwin, Kern, Herbert, and everybody, to orchestrating. And I did a show called Sons of Guns, which was produced by Connolly and Swanson. And William LeBaron, who was then the president of RKO, came just to the opening, in Imperial Theater in New York. I had an orchestra of 35 men, and every one of my men played about 5 different instruments. And we had, at one time, we had 30 violins, then we had 20 trumpets, and I did all the orchestrations and everything. And he was out of his mind. When the show was over, he came down to the pit. I was playing the exit march, and he says, Max, will you come and see me tomorrow at 4 o'clock in the RKO building? And I said, yes, I will. I went, and he says, you've got to come to Hollywood. He says, I've never had such a performance in my life. And I said, all right, what's in it? He told me. 2 weeks later, I came to Hollywood.
When was that?
This was in 1929, Christmas.
How long did it take you to write Gone with the Wind? That's more than 3 hours of music.
It's about 3 months. 3 months, but in between I did a picture called Intermezzo.
You were working on other pictures?
During Gone with the Wind, yeah. And I wrote Symphony Moderne at the same time. It took me about 3 months.
Did you enjoy writing for Gone with the Wind?
Yes, I loved it. I thought it was one of the greatest pictures I ever saw.
That's your kind of story?
That was my kind of story. But besides, I was red hot for Vivian Leigh, so in those days I was young enough to be that way. Now I don't care. Even Phyllis Diller doesn't interest me anymore.
But Gone with the Wind is full of historical romance. It has passion and emotion and color.
I think it's still one of the best, greatest things. I'll tell you another picture where my poor David, I loved him. David Sosnick didn't get enough credit. I thought Since You Went Away was a charming picture. That was a wonderful picture. I won the Academy, by the way.
I know. You must have believed in the picture because you wrote beautiful music for it.
It's a peculiar thing, Tony. On Gone with the Wind, everybody won an Academy Award, except me. I was the only one that didn't win. And in Since You Away, nobody won. I was the only one who won with music. So it got even, you know.
Yet of all your scores, it's possible that Gone with the Wind is the best loved, best remembered.
Yeah, well, sure. That's the picture helps the score, don't you know, Tony? That you could have the greatest music that ever was written. You could have Richard Wagner, I don't care who. And if the picture stinks, may I say that, the score will fall down. A music will help a picture. It can never save it. That is that they keep on saying no music ever saves a picture. Music saves a picture in the case of Fair Lady. My Fair Lady, but that music was a hit before My Fair Lady. I mean, long before that. And it was beautifully done. And I'm not plugging Warner's, but I think it's one of the best pictures I ever saw in my life. But on a regular dramatic picture, you could never save a picture. You can help it.